makes a loudspeaker special? No, really, is it just sound quality? Is sound quality even enough to make a speaker stand out? Because a lot of this stuff is starting to look and sound the same. So what does it take to grab your attention, not to mention your wallet in 2021? Well, hit that like button and subscribe, and let's find out if the handcrafted high desert loudspeaker from Moon HiFi has what it takes to captivate. If you're unfamiliar with Moon HiFi, this is a Texas-based speaker company that is the brainchild of husband and wife team Michael and Melissa Blair. And the High Desert loudspeaker is a two-way rear-ported monitor that features a 1-inch soft dome tweeter mated to a 7-inch reed paper mid-bass driver, both of which are manufactured by SOUNDSTAGE. The speaker's reported frequency response is 37 Hz to 20 kHz with a sensitivity of 86 dB into 8 ohms. At first glance, you may be tempted to write the speaker off as just another two-way bookshelf speaker finished in a lightwood veneer, but you'd be wrong. The Desert is made in part from solid sinker cypress that is actually sourced from the bottom of riverbeds. This means no two pairs of Desert speakers will be exactly the same, and yet, even between a single pair, there is almost an element of book-matched perfection to their finish. If you're at all into woodworking, the attention to detail throughout the construction of this particular speaker is next level. With this speaker being made by hand from reclaimed materials, this is not a mass market product. In fact, all Moon loudspeakers, including the High Desert, are made in small batches. How small? No more than 100 pairs annually. So while the Desert is a loudspeaker for the masses in terms of its capability, size, and obtainability, this is a product you have to want, because construction like this, very much like the deckware amplifiers, the lead time is measured in months, not days. With this being a rear-ported loudspeaker, as you might expect, its performance, especially with respect to bass, is going to depend a lot on placement. The Desert has impressive bass response, though its presence is somewhat room and placement dependent. Place it too close to a wall, say within 12 inches, and you can expect the bass to sound a little overwhelming, maybe even boomy at times. Pull it out 18 inches or so and things begin to even out. Go beyond 24 and it's possible for the Desert to sound anemic, at least in my experience. So in our room, we found that 18 inches was where the Desert sounded the most balanced top to bottom. In terms of amplifier pairings, while I wouldn't say this speaker is easy to drive, you don't have to throw gobs of power at it. It's revealing enough of a loudspeaker at times that I wouldn't just throw any old amp at it either. I very much preferred the Desert when mated to either of our Canner amps or the Blue Sound power node, but my favorite pairing was with the Audiolab 6000A Play. I tried the Desert with the Yamaha 801 as well as the NAD M33 and found both of those amps to be less than ideal. Both amps seem to rob the Desert of its focus and dynamic contrast, resulting in a sound that was just sort of, To be fair, I felt the same way when I paired these amps with the DYNAUDIO EVOKE 20, and that speaker is great. There is a purposeful character to the High Desert, one that is likely going to appeal to those of you who prefer a more classic hi-fi sound. While its bass response can definitely be boosted or curbed depending on placement, there is a small rise to this speaker's treble response that isn't as, well, adjustable. But let's talk about the bass for just a moment. When set up correctly, the Desert's bass is deep, textural, and organic sounding. Even when listening to streaming music through Tidal or Apple Music, there's just an old school analog vibe to the low bass. It's not the most agile, but it sounds very natural. There's some mild warmth to it that instantly makes listening comforting. Listening to the album The Confidence to Make Mistakes by Abe Rounds, his 4-piece drum kit had all of the weight and detail down low to not only ground his kit firmly in my space, but to present it in such a way that it felt vividly real. Now, as for scale, the Deserts have zero issue producing big sound, especially when it comes to the low notes. I'm not going to say that the Deserts don't require a subwoofer for true full-range playback, but for my taste, I was fine without one. Moving on to the mid-range. This is where the Desert is at its most neutral, though there is still a hint of warmth and roundness that takes the edge off a lot of digital recordings. I really enjoyed this speaker when it came to vocals. It's not lean through the mids, and as a result, artists sound more fleshed out. Like the DYNAUDIO EVOKE 20, the Desert has good detail throughout its mid-range, but it isn't showy. As you listen more intently, you begin to appreciate its detail retrieval. If you like small ensembles, singer-songwriter, or acoustic music, the Desert is a very easy speaker to listen to for hours. That's not to say that it can't rock. It can, but its wheelhouse is just a little bit more chill. Which brings us to the tweeter. I love this tweeter. It has energy to it, but not too much so as to change the overall character of the speaker to forward or bright. The top end accentuation helps give the speaker a sense of enhanced detail, but never so much so that it becomes fatiguing, even at high volumes. So instruments like cymbals are allowed to crash and ring, but they do so in a completely natural way. What's more, when presented with a recording known to have issues with compression or sibilance, like Miley Cyrus's Midnight Sky, the Desert toes the line almost perfectly, maintaining the recording's inherent brightness without letting it venture into aggressive territory. The CS tweeter here is the perfect match for the Desert, bringing an element of modernness and refinement to an otherwise classic or, dare I say, vintage-sounding speaker. In terms of the soundstage, the Desert can disappear orally and present one with a soundstage that is vast, both in width and depth, though it's not the most focused. Detail and separation is on the menu, but instruments and artists somewhat start to blur together at the edges, and this results in a sound that is more seductive and broad than laser etched. Still, dispersion and center imaging is good enough that even when sitting off axis, the sound doesn't really bunch up too much to one side. Now, dynamically, the Desert isn't lightning quick, but quick enough that there is enough snap when needed. But what I love most about the Desert's overall presentation as it relates to its soundstage and dynamics is its ability to scale. This is a moderately sized two-way that can sound positively huge, tower-like even. It had zero issues filling our open concept living space with a rich sound that was captivating in its ability to draw you in rather than having to shout at you in order to get your attention. What I think one has to be aware of when you're buying a semi-bespoke product like this is that you are buying into a very niche line, which for some of you might raise eyebrows with respect to items like repairs or just customer service in general. Now, as a hi-fi enthusiast himself, co-founder Michael stressed to me that HiMoon doesn't want their customer experience to mirror that of traditional retailers or manufacturers, whereby customers often get the runaround. Michael assured that if there is a problem with your speaker, it gets replaced. Period. Now, in terms of comparisons, the Desert is most like the DYNAUDIO EVOKE 20 that we just reviewed, but actually, it looks like a slightly bigger, more handmade DYNAUDIO Heritage Special, and that is absolutely fine with me. Sonically, these two are very similar, only the EVOKE 20 is more neutral overall, with the Desert possessing just a bit more top-end energy in direct comparison. While I understand the EVOKE 20 is the less expensive option, and in terms of performance, the two are nearly indistinguishable, the Desert is such a statement in terms of its construction that I think the added $1,500 investment is going to be worth it to the right customer. Another speaker that the Desert reminded me of at times was the KLH Model 5. If you can look past the Model 5's three-way design, both speakers have a very similar vintage flair in terms of looks and sound. And like with the DYNAUDIO, the KLH and Desert speaker are just so easy to listen to. And the more you listen, the more you stop fussing over all of the audiophile BS and just enjoy yourself. The KLH Model 5 is cheaper, but like with the DYNAUDIO, the Desert is in a class by itself when it comes to build and materials. But if $3,500 is a stretch, there's always the WHARFEDALE DENTON 85th anniversary speaker, which, like the Desert, has a bit of vintage charm itself. Not to mention is a two-way design with a similar laid-back, warm-ish demeanor. You might also look at the POLK Audio Reserve R200, which is neutral-ish, but nowhere near as rich or as solid as the High Desert when you get right down to it. Both of these options cost less than $1,000, so of course there's that to consider. There's a saying that creatives like to say when it comes to striking a balance between their professional and personal work, and that is, do one for you. I'm not gonna lie, this one was for me, because I wanted to try something unique, and in doing so, maybe have an experience on some level that was new. And that's exactly what I got, because the High Desert isn't just another speaker. It's a lot more like buying and owning art, because there is a real artistry and craftsmanship that just can't be ignored. A lot of hi-fi has become disposable, something many manufacturers are more than willing to cash in on. HiMoon gives you an experience that feels special. and is one of a kind because that's what it is. The High Desert is undeniably great, and for the right customer, it could be your forever loudspeaker. So that's it. That is now my review of the High Desert loudspeaker from Moon HiFi. And now it's time to find out what Kristi thought of it.
Well, first, I absolutely love that there is a woman out there building speakers.
Yeah.
And I think it shows. Like you said, it really is like art or very high-end furniture. I mean, the attention to detail is impeccable. I mean, just look at that brass logo that's on the back. She puts that in by hand. I mean, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
If you just look at this speaker. Now, as far as the sound goes, it's warm, and I agree with you. It's very similar to the DYNAUDIO speakers, and as beautiful as I think the EVOKEs are, I would get these without hesitation. I love their size. The finish is absolutely next level, and you can tell that it's going to last a lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
And I just can't say the same for a lot of things that come through this door.
There's no way of knowing this really without being an owner of this speaker for years and years and years. But like with all things made of hardwood, I think they actually might appreciate visually with time. You know, think about whenever you've gone antiquing or something like that and you see an original piece that's got decades of, life in it. But because it's real hardwood, stained or, however it's finished and not always MDF with some type of veneer or a sticker on it, it just gets richer with time. And I think there's very few speakers nowadays that are going to do that. And that's one of the strangely appealing things about this, that it kind of transcends for me, at least the experience of having it in the house. It sort of transcended for me it being just another speaker. It became furniture. It became sculptural. It became something else. Which
I agree.
Was really cool.
There's a real story behind these speakers. But look, here's the thing that I really wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Beyond the fact that there's a woman involved. Again, just love that so much. Now, a lot of our viewers, and right now I'm really specifically talking to our American audience.
Okay.
A lot of people do a lot of fists in the air over where a speaker is made.
This is true.
Well, here you go. This is handmade completely right here in the U.S. by a very, very small group of people. And if that is something that you really care about, you have to support them.
Yeah.
But this is what it costs.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now before anybody gets upset, I personally do not have a problem with products that are made outside of the U.S. I really don't. Not at all. But many, and I mean many of you, seem to care. So here is your chance to put your money where your mouth is.
Ooh.
Will you do it?
Yeah. And I mean, that is the question.
I care about my keeping money in my bank account too, just like everybody else.
Sure.
But I'm also really honest with myself about what that means. You know, like we could talk about fast fashion, fast audio. A lot of it's the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a price that people are very quick to want to criticize or like to criticize because it's very popular to criticize, and it's very popular to say that you want to support something. But I think with the exception of like Klipsch Heritage loudspeakers, I know Focal's all of Focal's stuff. I mean, it's not American, but it is, made in France. There are just very few people doing it entirely. Deckware, yeah, another great example, but minus a handful of companies. There's just very few people doing it entirely homegrown. And so, it's a bit of a gauntlet thrown down, but at the same time, it's kind of an important conversation to have. Because we do get a lot of comments from you guys about where something is made and why that matters to you. And it's not for a lack of trying. We do try and bring you stuff like this. Bandwidth Audio, another great example, but unfortunately that in order to support these smaller businesses, you are paying a little bit more of a premium. But that premium isn't a luxury tax. I think that's how a lot of people may view it. They may view a $3,500 loudspeaker as a luxury tax, and it's the cost of doing business on a smaller scale in order to just be in the conversation against the likes of a Denon or a POLK, where they're ordering things by the container. And that we're talking tens of thousands of units at a time by the container. Whereas, like in the review, we said High Moon's making no more than 100 of these a year. And the reason for that is so that the 3 people that make them have a work-life balance. And that's important. That's really important.
Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I think it's...
Because I think it's an important... I mean, obviously, we could probably have a whole video about this.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to High Moon. I think they've made a really incredible product. I really want to see where else they go. Like,
we did forget to mention that there are... It's not technically 2 finishes, but you can order this speaker in a more black stain.
It's a black stain.
A black stain versus the all natural cypress. And the reason for that is they stain the units that don't quite match the grain pattern that they're looking for in the cypress. They stain them black so that they don't waste any of the material, but that when customers buy something, it still looks like what you've seen in this video or on their website with respect to the cypress. So if you're like, oh, I don't like natural, I would have preferred black, they have that option. Just, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, I think he said something about that because the wood, it's kind of, it's like this rare.
Yeah.
It's like this rare type of timber that they're using.
Yeah.
They'd never know exactly when they start to plane it, exactly what the grain is going to be. And sometimes it has an undertone that they just don't prefer. And those end up getting this stained black.
Yeah.
So like you said, so it doesn't go to waste, which I really like. So there's an element of sustainability.
Absolutely. This speaker is entirely, from the best of my knowledge, it's entirely sustainable. Down to the sound deadening materials inside the cabinet. It's recycled denim.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's recycled denim, kind of like our Sunbasket food orders.
Oh, okay.
In the woofer being the paper pulp woofer and stuff like that. They're really, and even the oils that they use are, I want to say non-toxic. I don't know what the exact term for that is, but they are like all natural oils that get hand rubbed and then sanded and all that. So it's about as low impact footprint environmentally as I think any speaker is right now. And that may mean something to somebody, and that's worth pointing out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool company.
Very cool company. Very, very interesting. And I hope things progress for them, because I do. I think they make a very interesting product, and I think the price point is completely fair. Completely fair.
I think so too. I mean, this wood is impeccable. Yeah. Yeah. And it feels like there's a weight to it, you know, well, because it's real. Yeah. They're beautiful in person.
They are very stunning. And the only thing that I'll add is, and I know I said this in the review, but this is a speaker, in my opinion, this is a speaker for music lovers. It really is, because you will not analyze this speaker. Honestly, I don't think that you will. If you are someone that is obsessed with measurements, if you're obsessed with, you know, all of the general audiophile talking points, this isn't for you. It's not for you. But if you're someone that wants to get away from all of that and just plow through your music collection because you are enjoying yourself, seriously give a very hard look at this speaker, because that is who it's for. That's all I'm going to say. I think you got anything else to add?
I don't.
All right. So that's our review of the High Desert loudspeaker from Moon HiFi. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, we have a question of the day for you. Of course we do. And that is, when it comes to hi-fi brands that you don't know, what does it take to get you to give them a try? What would a company like Moon have to do, or any company just starting out? Like what do they have to deliver for you to give them a chance? Let us know down in the comments below. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down in the description, know that that is a great way that you not only support this channel, but you support small and large retailers that are doing their best to help keep the community growing, and we always want to support that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that's it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video. Bye.